So yeah, I usually record all of the episodes that I have here, and I a little bit forgot to start recording this one, so I just hit the record button now. So if it goes up on YouTube, there's going to be some, I don't know, 5-10 minutes, however long I've been live, of content that's not going to make it there, but that's okay. It's not like it's anything overly important. We are just chatting and hatching eggs, and we haven't got a shiny yet, so it's not going to be that interesting. Since we grabbed an extra egg just a moment ago, I'm actually just going to come over here and swap you out for the egg. No need to pick anything up to replace it. I might hatch one more and then pop in and see if there's any raids online through the Wycom. You know, just a way to kill some time. I did listen back to the recorded episode from last time, and I noticed something. So the game audio, especially when I would go into a max raid, was a lot just louder. It was a lot more dominant than I had really intended for it to be. I think I put a limiter on place to make sure that it didn't get too crazy, but it was causing kind of this juddering with the audio that I didn't really like. So I did, see, look at that. Excellent stats, not quite the nature we're looking for. But them's the breaks. I kind of mentioned the odds that we were going to get what we're looking for. No, I listened to the audio for how the background music and the sound effects were in the max raid, because I know especially in the max raid there's a lot of noise. It's very, very loud. There's a lot of kind of crashing. There's a pounding bass line with the music. Oh, no communication partner was found. This is a shame. We'll hatch another egg and see what happens. But no, so I spent a little bit of time tinkering with it, trying to make sure the volume's properly moderated. Did some stuff. If you're familiar with the technology, I put something called a compressor on it, which will kind of register when it starts to get too loud, and it'll adjust how far it can exceed the set limit. So it's not just straight up limiting the amount, like the volume level, it's just kind of controlling it better. I think I set the timings on it so it shouldn't sound like the volume level's just kind of flickering all over the place like it was last time. If you hear anything weird, let me know. Always looking to improve things. This weekend I will be messing with my layout a little bit. I just kind of whipped this up. So I watch not a whole lot of streamers on Twitch, but there's a couple favorites that I have, and Small Ant, if you're familiar with him, is one of my favorites, and I just kind of, we'll say, borrowed the basic concept for the layout from him. I like the way it looks. I feel like it's nice and clean. But I'm working on kind of a twist on it that'll make it a little more my own. Some fancier transitions than just the fade. You know, just stuff to spice it up a little bit. We gonna get this one? Adrian. Yeah, we'll switch some Pokemon. That was a Fracture. Now the downside is I have a lot of these guys. You can see the little purple icon by them. They are in a battle team of some sort. I can't pick them, so I have to pick someone from my regular party to go in here. I think we're going to grab Darmanitan because he does not play nice with others, and I think that it's going to make pretty quick work, especially since this is just a 3-star. The thing that blows people's minds is this Darmanitan will outspeed anything that someone else in this raid is running. And the idea behind that is Galarian... Sorry, I'm looking for something real quick. Galarian Darmanitan. His speed isn't bad, but I gave mine a Choice Scarf. So, depending on how familiar you are with Pokemon and what some of the hold items do, that may or may not mean anything to you. The choice items, there's 3. There's the Choice Scarf, Band, and Specs, I think is the other one. All 3 of them have the same basic concept behind what they do. The question just comes down to which stat they affect. So the way it works is the Pokemon comes in, you can pick any move from their move pool and go ahead and use it. The first move, you can pick any of them, yeah? For the second move, until the Pokemon switches out, you have no choice but to use the first move that you made. Basically, it's a choice item. You've made your choice. So you're locked into that first move since it enters the battlefield. But that item gives a 50% boost to the stat that correlates with it. So the Choice Band increases the physical attack stat by 50% in exchange for being locked into one move. Choice Specs are for special attack, and Choice Scarf is for speed. Galarian Darmanitan's ability is Guerrilla Tactics, which has it basically act like it has a choice band on it. Locks it to the first move it uses, but it gives it a 50% boost in attack. If you couple that with something like a choice scarf, you get 50% boost to attack and to speed. So not only does this thing basically go first every time, but it hits like a bus every time it makes contact. Which is excellent for me because I'm not very interested in losing. It's not super great if you're up against it. I don't really follow the Smogon competitive scene a whole lot, but if I remember correctly, last time I looked at it, and this was months ago, there were discussions about having Galarian Darmanitan move to the Uber tier, which is kind of like their tier where all the legendary Pokemon are relegated to fight anything that's just too powerful to have a non-damaging effect to the meta. As I understand it, the way they do those is if the Pokemon is powerful enough that it warps the landscape. So basically every team either has to run that Pokemon or needs to go out of its way to run answers to just that Pokemon. It's a problem, and it's worth evaluating whether it needs to be banned. You know what I mean? So like if every team has to run something that's like got Accelerock on it, so it can always go first and hit with a priority rock type move, or it just has to run a Galarian Darmanitan, then that Pokemon is warping the meta. It's controlling what every single team has to do. So it got banned to the Uber tier, where all of the Pokemon that are kind of famous for warping the meta get stuffed into one spot where they're kind of all each other's problem, which is really cool. It leads to some very interesting gameplay depending on how things shake out there, but I don't know. You know what? I'm curious, so while we let these animations roll, I'm going to look it up. So we've got Smogon, Galarian, not Slowking, what are you doing? Darmanitan. I'm going to look it up real quick. We're going to swing OBS over here. Yeah, I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. So if I switch over to the full screen thing, this is, and we'll zoom in some because text is a thing. So that's Galarian Darmanitan, and he has his alternate form, the Zen mode, but if you look, his tier is Uber, and if we look at the Pokemon that he's basically set to compete against, he's up against things like Calyrex, a lot of the legendary and mythic Pokemon, Mewtwo, Ultra Beasts. Like there's Pokemon that, like, it's where the high-powered, like, problem children tend to go. Bear with me here, and we're back. Yeah, I'll catch it. Why not? So yeah, it's been determined that Galarian Darmanitan represents, I don't know, an issue for the competitive scene that needs to be dealt with. I don't play competitive. I play at the Battle Tower, I play with friends, but everything's pretty casual, so I'm not too worried about the power level. Like, I'm gonna use it, and if people complain about it, I can rotate off to something else. But yeah, it's not insignificant how powerful this thing can be. I mean, that was a 3-star raid. It's not really a good showcase for exactly how strong it is, but you know what I mean? That's why I have a second one. So I've got, I'll show you what I'm talking about. I have the team here in the PC, and we've got my normal battle team, which has my shiny Galarian Darmanitan. We've got this guy here, which is a Zen mode Galarian Darmanitan. And then we have this one here, which is a non-shiny, whose stats are otherwise the same as the shiny one that I've got over on this team. So I really like it. This team over here, I moved one of the guys. I think it was Mimikyu, which is actually just sitting right here, was in place of Rena Regis, but I moved him. I had built out this whole team, prepped it with like competitive grade stats so I could make sure that I'm having lots of fun when I'm playing with people, and then I decided that I wanted it shiny, so I made a second version of that team, which are these guys over here. Every single one of them is shiny, which actually leaves these dudes here open for things like going in and doing max raids and having Pokemon that are powerful enough to hold their own. Make sure we don't, yeah, I've got a full team of eggs. Let's hatch some more stuff. Kind of messing with the fracture there was fun, but the point is shiny Pokemon, not max raids. If there was like a daycare down on the Crown Tundra, I would happily hatch like, you know, maybe 12 eggs, do 2 full parties worth, and then go run, like, take a run at some of the max raids. I might still fly down and do it. It's not like it's hard to travel across the region, you know what I mean? They make, like, what was it, the Corviknight taxis, I think is what they call them in this game. They make it easy to transport yourself around, so we can always go and kind of mix it up. Let's see what we got. I'm gonna actually zip way over here, drop you off with your friends. Let me just make sure we're not putting away something I need. Yeah, no good on the nature, and it's got an imperfect stat. That didn't hit either of the points that I needed. I'll pick up a new one. So yeah, but anyway, I was kind of talking about something, I got a little off topic, but the discussion of potential Gen 4 remakes, although there's even been some speculation that that's not exactly what it's going to be. So when I think remake, I think of like Fire Red and Leaf Green, Omega Ruby, Alpha Sapphire, like games where it is fundamentally the same game. It takes place in the same region, it tells the same story, it's just been remade with the technology of the time. You know what I mean? Like, a good example for what I'm talking about there is Ruby and Sapphire versus Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. Mega Evolution was included in the latter, even though it didn't exist in the first ones. It's still a remake. You still fight the same bad guys. You still do the same thing. They're just taking advantage of the Generation 6 gimmick, so to speak, Mega Evolution in that one. So it remains to be seen what exactly we'll be getting out of Gen 4 remakes. Whether they're just going to be the same story that we played in the original Diamond and Pearl games, where, you know, Team Galactic is up to no good, and if you didn't play the original ones, because I know there's people out there who have not been around, because like those games came out, this might make some people not very pleased, but this is the 14th year since they launched, because they launched in 2007. At least here in North America. I don't know if they were like 2006 elsewhere, but it's been going on 14 years since they hit the market, so there very well could be people who are actually going into high school who they weren't born when those games came out, you know what I mean? There's people who were old enough to drive who were too little to have a Game Boy at the time. Like, it's crazy to think about that to me. But yeah, so I don't know if it's going to be them basically going, we're back in Generation 4, it's the same story, we just made it on the Switch, so it's all 3D and stuff now, have a great day. Or if they're going to do what some people have been saying they're going to do, and like retell or like redo the story, or kind of like have it be like a welcome back to the Sinnoh region 10 years later sort of thing. I'd be interested to see how they handle something like that. You know, because like the Sinnoh region's cool, I liked the story. The only real complaint I have about them is if you go back and play them, whether it's on an emulator or a console, you'll see the same thing. They are slow. There have even been memes about that not too long ago. People kind of making jokes. If you may have seen them around, I don't know how far spread they got, but it was just one of those things where, like, mechanically, the games just took a while. You know, doing the HP bar scrolled slowly. So, like, you could hit something like a Blissey with close combat, do massive damage, and it would take like a cool 40 seconds for the HP bar to deplete because its HP decreased by the numerical rate, not by a percentage. So it would go down, you know, like 15 points a second. And when you have 700 HP, I mean, you're going to be sitting there for a while just waiting for that little slider to just very slowly inch its way down the screen. It was ridiculous. But the story was good. I like the new Pokemon they added. That was one of those generations where, if you're familiar with the more recent games, there's Pokemon out there now like Weavile, who's an evolved form from Sneasel, Gallade. Oopsie, we forgot to pick up an egg. That's fine, we'll fill it in. Pokemon like Gallade, Tangrowth, Togekiss. Basically, they went back to generations 1, 2, and 3, maybe? And picked out a bunch of Pokemon that were either 1 or 2 stage Pokemon where they kind of felt like they were missing a final evolution, and they gave them a final form using new stones like the Dusk Stone, Dawn Stone, Shiny Stone, things that were introduced. So like, I really liked Gen 4 for what it brought to the table. It was a lot of fun. It was the first titles on the DS, if you're not aware. I'm not sure if I would rather have them just do remakes, like it's the same story for all intents and purposes you're playing Diamond in 3D, or if I would rather see like, welcome back to the Sinnoh region, here's how things are after Team Galactic's fall, because spoiler alert, you're the good guy and you win. I mean, assuming you can play the game, I guess if you're not good enough you'll lose, but that's not really the point of Pokemon. So yeah, it'll be neat to see what exactly happens. The rumors are suggesting that some press conference with Nintendo in February is going to contain an announcement maybe for a fall release, which could be kind of neat. Not that I have any complaints about Sword and Shield. I don't know if you have had the good pleasure of seeing me save my game before, but I'll go do that now. I have logged, 530 hours or so in the game, which is a number. So in spite of the fact that the National Dex thing bugs me, and I have complaints about it, and no Pokemon game is perfect, and I did enjoy these a fair bit, but new games are fun, new regions are fun. The big question, and I would love to get any feedback on this that I can, whether it be a debate or just confirmation that I'm not losing it here, but what do you think they're going to do about things like Dynamax? If these games, and the way they typically do it, for example, Gen 1, obviously, no remakes. It was the first generation. Generation 2, Gold, Silver, and Crystal, they were backwards compatible, at least in part, with Gen 1. And there were no remakes at that time. There's no reason to launch Gen 2 on the same console and then remake Gen 1, But then we hit Gen 3. Game Boy Advance, the form factor changed, a lot of the stuff changed around, and so they released Fire Red and Leaf Green a little after Ruby and Sapphire. So it was a remake of the first generation of Pokemon on the new platform, but you could battle, you could trade, you could do whatever you wanted with your friends who had Ruby or Sapphire, or eventually Emerald version. They once you beat the game, they were fully cross-compatible. That's been true. So that was the Gen 1 remakes. Gen 2 remakes happened on the DS, and they were compatible with Diamond and Pearl. Gen 3 remakes just happened on the 3DS, and they were compatible with X and Y, including the addition of Mega Evolutions, which have since been dropped from Generation 8. So, you can't, if you've played Sword and Shield, you know this, you can't do Mega Evolution. They cut that as a feature. It'll be interesting to see if they choose to extend Dynamax over to the Sinnoh region, or if they bring back Mega Evolution, or if they try and just institute some other change. You know what I mean? If the games are going to be cross-compatible, it's unlikely that they would take the time to add in Mega Evolution. You know what I mean? Because these games don't support it, and unless they're planning on doing some sort of DLC update, or even a free update, like what they did when they launched the Crown Tundra and the Isle of Armor, where old Pokemon were kind of retroactively made compatible even if you didn't buy it. You just didn't get access to the new map area. It'll be interesting to see what they choose to do, because the whole thing in this region, the Dynamax phenomenon, as it's called, is that something called Galar particles make it possible. I'm going to operate under the assumption that anyone watching this has already seen the storyline. They're familiar with these games. If you're not and it's going to bug you, throw it in the chat now. I'll waste a few more seconds, or disconnect or tune out or whatever if this is on YouTube, or if you're just not feeling it. But the premise behind Dynamaxing in Galar is that it's something called Galar particles, which we learn from the story are, here we go, as of the Pokemon Eternatus, which is the last entry in the mainland Pokédex. So I'm going to zip to the bottom here, so I'll show you what I'm talking about. Oh, this is alphabetical. I should probably go this way, because the letter E is before the letter M, because of the alphabet. So this dude here is the, kind of the big villain legendary, I guess. Sword and Shield, obviously, on the title, the cover, they've got the dogs, the one with the sword in its mouth and the one with the thick neck. This is the antagonist. So those two are kind of partner Pokemon for the hero. But the idea is that it's this thing. Something about it, some particles that it dropped, some energy that it emits, whatever it is, it gives the Pokemon in the region the ability to Dynamax. Now that's fine. The question is, if they're called Galar particles, and they're caused by a one-of-a-kind legendary here in the Galar region, how are they going to make it so that you can Dynamax your Pokemon over in Sinnoh, or any other region for that matter? Is there supposed to just now be multiple Eternatus? Is it not Galar particles? They're going to call them Sinnoh particles? I mean, obviously this is more of a lore problem than a mechanical one. They can just put Dynamax in the game and tell you to get over it, but I'm wondering, because they try to keep it at least a little consistent, how are they going to answer that? So that'll be interesting. Or are they just going to turn around and decide that Dynamaxing was and throw Mega Evolution back in the mix? Or are they going to just not have any special gimmick to that game? I don't know, bring back Z moves? it'll be interesting to see what they do, for sure. As I said, complaints about the Gen 8 games aside, I do enjoy them. I think that they came out pretty darn okay. It took a little while for them to mature. I think Sword and Shield without the DLC was maybe a little... it was fine. It was maybe a little rough around the edges. And like, that's okay. You know, it's no Pokemon game's ever been perfect, but it's one of those things where I will be interested to see what their takeaway was from Sword and Shield. You know what I mean? They've had a year and a half-ish to gauge people's reactions and then see how they've played it. It's been like a year and 3 months since it hit the market, but they made the announcement about the National Dex months before its release, and that really got people fired up. So it'll be interesting to see if the takeaway for them has to do with the game mechanics, the Pokédex, or if it's more about them enforcing a new world order for us as the gamers. I'm excited to see what happens, because either they're going to royally screw it up, and, you know, I mean, that sucks, but what are you going to do? Or it's going to be excellent, and they will have kind of filled in the cracks, and they'll have kind of followed what their customers asked for. And I think that's what a good company does. Like, and let it be known in advance, or I'll show you. I am not an Apple kind of guy. This right here, this is an Android phone. I'm on Windows right now. When I was doing the screen share, you could see like the taskbar and stuff at the bottom. Like, I'm not really an Apple person. I don't have a MacBook. I don't want a MacBook. But for better or for worse, they have made some choices. And I say some because definitely not all, but some choices that kind of demonstrate that they at least understand when their customers don't like something and are willing to try and budge on it. Really, kind of the best example that I can think of is a couple years ago, and they switched their MacBook line around to use those butterfly key switches. The butterfly key switches apparently were nice when they worked, if you like them. I like keys with a lot of travel. I've got like a big mechanical keyboard here on my desk. But they were like a good compact key. Apparently people kind of liked them, but the issue is that they weren't very durable. So what would happen is as you would use them, little bits of dust would get stuck under them. And that's, I mean, it's inevitable. It's a laptop. It's getting thrown in bags. It's getting carried all over the place. Dust is going to happen. But that dust would just disable the keys. So they would miss strokes, or they would double or triple register keystrokes, or it was just like the keyboard just was unusable after a year or two. You'd have to pay money to send your MacBook out to get it fixed. I think they eventually started offering some sort of like free repair program for people who were affected by it, which is good, because that would be absolutely ridiculous. But like, apparently, and I think it was the 2019 MacBook was the first model where they turned around and kind of switched back to the scissor switches that they were using before those butterfly switches. So while Apple's got kind of a questionable history of just doing their best to make the customer happy, clearly they learned that there was a decision made that left people feeling some kind of way, and they took some step to fix it. I will be very interested to see if Game Freak shares that opinion and that business model, or if they're just going to turn around and decide that it's our problem to get over it. Give me a second, I want to drink some of my hot chocolate. It's more like warm chocolate now. Give me just a second. Spilled a little in my hand. That's fine. But yeah, I also, and just speculate here with me for a minute, I would like to see what a Pokemon main series game made by a company other than Game Freak looks like. Now that might sound, I don't want to say a bit extreme, but you know what I mean. It might sound like drastic measures to discuss the idea of, I don't know, throwing out Game Freak, because like they've been the developers of the main series since Red version. Actually, I think technically since Green, but they didn't do Green version here in the US, so Red version for me. But that means that they have been the head developers for Pokemon games since, I don't know, was that 1995? So that's 26 years. That's a big number. But what I'm trying to figure out is part of what's limiting Pokemon's development Game Freak? Or is their development team plenty big and this is just the way the franchise is? Now, what I mean by that, it's not that the Pokemon games, we talked about this, it's not that they're bad. But I'm kind of like, this is like right in my face. So, there we go. Much better. Yeah, I, like here. You know what we're going to do? We're going to go demonstrate something. Let's find a wild Pokemon. That one will do. So, there's a Wobbuffet. The model looks fine. Obviously, we're on the Switch, so like there's limitations for the hardware for how much detail you're going to see, right? It's not going to look like ultra high poly, but for what it is, it looks pretty all right. Frame rate's pretty smooth. I like it. The issue that I have is when you look at like the animations, like here, we're going to use Hex. For Hex, Chandelure does an animation, there's like a whooshy, ghosty thing that happens around it, and then just a different ghost shape over by the enemy. A lot of attacks are like that. Like if you've ever seen Double Kick, there's no the Pokemon running over and kicking the other Pokemon. And I mean, sure, maybe that's violent for Nintendo standards. On the flip side, it's a game about animal fighting, so like, get over it, I guess. But the issue that I have is that little, like, I can look it up or I can get a Pokemon that knows Double Kick really quick, but the really short answer is the Pokemon that uses Double Kick is it does like this little hop, and then like this 2D foot shape just happens over top of the enemy, symbolizing a kick. That was great for like Game Boy Advance era, you know, 2D sprites. There was just limitations to what your graphics were going to be and what they were going to look like. And you know, I mean, you didn't really have a way around that. That's okay. It kind of feels like that's just the nature of Pokemon now. Like, Game Freak doesn't seem overly interested in bringing more to the table, and that's fine. They don't necessarily have to. I mean, it's definitely a stylistic choice, and I like the games for what they are. But, like, could it not be better? Shouldn't we be shooting to have each game that comes out just be better than the one before it in every conceivable way? It feels like, especially over the last couple generations, like each game that comes out, it adds something new, but it takes something away. It's not just strictly better, like I would like to imagine that it is. They're better, but with some concessions that I honestly don't think need to be made. So if I can provide you an example, why did we get rid of Mega Evolution? Now, I'll hear the argument that it was a balancing issue. That's fine. I could understand that, but should testing of the balancing of the game not go into the pre-launch portion of the game? And could they not, as each generation comes over, adjust the mechanics? Could they not have gotten rid of Dynamaxing, just never introduce it, but put a 3-turn limit on Mega Evolutions instead? Some people might have been annoyed, but it retains the same mechanic, it makes the same Pokemon viable, they can add some new forms, and they can just kind of build off of it, refine it, you know what I mean? Like, another game that I play, and if you follow this channel at all, you may have noticed a smallish bit of it, but I play Magic the Gathering. And there is a podcast put out by the head designer for Magic the Gathering. His name's Mark Rosewater. Podcast is called Drive to Work. If you like the game, I very much recommend it. You should definitely check it out. But the important takeaway here is that Magic the Gathering, they put together a set maybe a year, 18 months in advance, 2 years, depending. Like, the timeline is roughly as far in advance as a Pokemon game's development goes. Some of the game development is obviously going to need to go into the engine, the world, the 3D models, animations. Like, there's a lot of game development time that just goes into the aesthetics of the game. Could they not have a team whose job is like play testing and balance testing the game, like what a company like Wizards does? If Game Freak wants to act like the big reason why they couldn't offer something for one game or the other is balancing, I mean, they host things like VGC. Like, they're major tournaments that involve Pokemon. Like, that's kind of a big portion of the thing. You would think a company who boasts some competitive scene as like a portion of what makes their game special would, I don't know, do a better job of balancing that competitive meta instead of releasing something and then after the fact going, meh, that's not right, and then getting rid of it. Like, it's fine. I think that adjustments and tweaks to existing technologies would be a better approach than just being like, Mega Evolution's bad, get rid of it. Okay, Z-moves. Z-moves are bad, get rid of it. Okay, Dynamax. And then just hoping that, eventually we'll get it if we just keep trying and taking things away. You know? Like, it feels like Dynamaxing and Z moves a little bit combined are a little bit like, it kind of feels like they've taken Mega Evolution and started breaking it down. But like, not even, because Mega Evolution didn't change your move pool. It's just like they're kind of each game's picking a thing that they can fiddle with and then just seeing what they come up with, and that's fine. But like, I don't know, I miss Mega Evolutions. I think I mentioned this previously, not this stream, but one of the other ones, where as part of the team, and I'm going to go back to kind of show who I'm talking about here, I wanted to get this guy, my shiny Solosis, and in order to do so, I needed to go back to a previous game because I needed to get one of these, which is also Solosis, but not shiny. But you'll notice it's caught in a red and white regular edition Pokeball. That's kind of up top by its name. And if you look at this screen here, it says it seems to have traveled all the way across space and time itself to join me from the Kalos region. I had to go back and pick up my DS, and I had to find a cave that had Solosis and catch it because I want this entire team to be held in red and white, just standard Pokeballs. It's a thing that would just mean a lot to me, and I want that. And in the process of doing that, I Mega Evolved the Pokemon, and I realized how much I miss that. Hello, Andy. How are you doing? It is a pleasure to see you. This is the microphone you should use next time. Also that camera, also these lights. It'd be neat. For anyone else who may or may not be here, my friend Andy, A Rain DNA here in the chat, just did an audition for some sort of musical thing that I'm not going to get too much into in case he doesn't want to talk about it, but he had to, because of COVID, do kind of like a Zoom meeting sort of audition, and that's always tough because like he had to use his phone, and using your phone is fine, but it's nice if you don't have to. So I was trying to get him to come over here, but time constraints weren't going to have it work, but I was going to have him use the mic because I got this guy here. So it's a big microphone and some cameras and shit, and I thought that it would be fun. But what I might actually, Andy, while you're here, what I might try and have you do is next time, or even like sometime in the next handful of months, you know, as you figure out when that's going to be, come over here and try it out sometime. See if we can find like a layout or a configuration where you can try it out. You can use the microphone, see what you think, and then if you, yeah, because you were talking about someone else who is a longer drive away than I am, but you can see if this setup works for you, and if it doesn't, then you can let it go. But here, I found this out. I have a camera in the bottom corner. I'm going to demonstrate it. If I reach up and pick up the camera and I rotate it, the camera, haha, it moved. Hang on, I'm going to move me around for a second here. It can switch to a vertical layout like that. So I can kind of put, and it can be wider than that. I have it cropped, but you can set it to a vertical thing, or you can flip it around and set it back to a horizontal thing. Either way works just fine. So if we need to get you in frame, I think that's kind of the way we got to go about doing it. The microphone and the lighting should be good. Also, it's an excuse to hang out and play some Smash Bros. Or something. Honestly, I don't care. Magic in paper. Yo, we're totally derailing from the shiny hunting portion of things for today, but that's okay. Doesn't matter that much. For the first time in 8 months, had to open up my box of actual paper Magic cards, and I forgot how much I liked that sliver deck that I had. But if we hang out in person, you and I can play a little bit of Magic paper style with cards instead of digital style with computer programs, which would be super neat. Yeah, the context for the reason that I have this out is Ryan was building a Dragon Tribal deck, which he did showcase kind of the first version of it last week on Friday. Big updates, actually, that's true. You've been playing with a different group of people. That may prove challenging, because I know they play at kind of a different caliber than the rest of our group does. That's okay. I think I can get over it. But yeah, Ryan was trying to check out his 5-color dragon deck, and I realized he only put in like maybe 18, 20 dragons, something like that. So I took out the deck, broke it down, just kind of let him know that, yeah, I'm running like 34 creatures, 40 creatures, some big number like that. Like, I'm running a lot of creatures in that deck compared to what you would normally expect to see in a, like in a commander deck. Commander tends to be kind of interaction heavy, so there's usually a lot of like counter spells, removal, just crap kind of make threats or buy people off. And Ryan plays a lot of Selesnya, so he's used to having Path to Exile, Swords to Plowshares, a lot of green ramp spells, lots of interaction. Now that he was going to be in 5 colors, he was putting in like Cyclonic Rift and some other like big spells, and it ate up a huge amount of the number of like the card slots in his deck. So when he went to put the dragons in, he was just kind of left with, you know, some openings, but nothing like enough to really run a deck whose whole thing is you get a payoff for having a lot of dragons in play. So I was trying to get him the numbers on that, and while I was flipping through the deck, I forgot how much I love that dang sliver deck. Like, more than I probably should. It's good. I very much like it. I miss playing it, but at the same time it was mean to the people at the table. I think it was kind of inappropriate to keep playing it, so I reserve it for when we're kind of getting into a slap fight. And here's the thing, Andy. The slivers do not have any infinite combos. They don't have any... Like, it's not like it's this overly busted deck. It just... Once I get all 5 colors on board, the deck doesn't really need to slow down. You know what I mean? Like... It still usually doesn't have anything lethal until like turn 7, turn 8-ish. That's like if I'm gunning it. So like, you know, it's not like it's some giant massive threat that needs to be dealt with, but it moves quickly and it freaks people out. So it tends to invite a lot of board wipes and some stuff. Fastest I've ever lethaled someone with, it was maybe turn 3, and that was with a perfect hand. But yeah, it's definitely not like competitive grade like CEDH. If anyway, I'm obviously chatting with Andy, but anyone else who may be here, if you're not familiar with it, it's competitive Elder Dragon Highlander, which is the big ridiculous way to say commander. It's not like one of those like will win on turn 1, turn 2. Like, it's nothing that crazy, but it's a nice deck, and I like the slivers. If you play Magic but aren't overly familiar with slivers, they are a creature type. So the way Magic cards work, you know, yeah, it is. EDH stands for Elder Dragon Highlander. Yes, Andy. So here, I'm going to show you, the general you, a Magic card. So this is a creature. It's Striking Sliver. This line of text right below, it says Creature Sliver. It might be blurry, bear with me here. But the way these guys work is each sliver has an ability, some sort of thing that's going to help it in combat or otherwise make it just more difficult to deal with. The way slivers work is if one's in play, they give all other slivers that same ability. So if I have one sliver with one ability out, that's fine. It's maybe a little underwhelming. If I have 2 slivers, each with a different ability out, now all of a sudden I have 2 creatures with 2 abilities each. And the more I put out, the more ridiculous they get, until I've got like 15 creatures out. It's 15 creatures, which is a lot. But then they have 15 different abilities each. It makes them absolutely ridiculous. Maybe a little vulnerable, like if you have cards that'll destroy all of the stuff. It can be, like, if you can destroy all creatures, I'm going to be kind of up a creek, so to speak, which is no good. But, I don't know, I just like them. Sometimes it's fun to just kind of go nuts with the creatures and not worry too much about the synergy and stuff. 1 second. Coming in to play games, dude? Yeah. Leanne's coming in to play some sort of games, possibly Warzone, which she happens to be a little bit excellent at. But yeah, Paper Magic has been a lot of fun. The Sliver deck's not really designed for 1v1 stuff. Hey, Leanne. Andy says hi, Mom. She says hello. Yeah, they're it's one of those things where it's not really tooled for 1v1 play. And what I mean by that is, I think it's a little more wicked when it's 1v1 because I don't need to protect myself from 3 different opponents who are kind of looking at me sideways. So I'll see what happens. I might start solitarying the deck a little bit. But yeah, so if you're feeling it, and this could be kind of sometime in the general future, it doesn't need to be tomorrow or next weekend or anything like that, but plan to swing over. We'll hang out, we'll play some Smash, maybe fool around with a little bit of Magic. I'll have you test out the microphone and the whole setup we got here, and it'll just be kind of a chill day. Maybe watch a movie or something. I don't know. I'm not picky about it. I don't really care. So Andy, I don't know how loud you have me turned up. Yeah, bring the Jess. Tell the Jess I said hi, by the way. I'm assuming she's somewhere around there with you. Hello, Jess. Leanne says hi too, I'm sure. I'm not asking her because of I don't feel like it, but I guarantee you she would if I asked. But no, I'm gonna go do a raid. And Andy, if you're with me now-ish, just let me know if the background music is obnoxious. The last time I was in here trying to do one of these, it was, I guess we're not doing a raid because that's full. Oh, hello. No, I had this issue where I was going in and doing like raids in between some stuff, and just it's got like a lot of bassy background noise because it's supposed to sound all intimidating and scary because there's a boss monster in the room. And I think it was kind of overpowering. Here it should be fine. If I go in and fight one of these dudes, I think it'll be an issue. Give me 1 second. I'm just going to go find one because I feel like it. Let's zip on over to the Isle of Armor. If you need to skedaddle, don't let me hold you around, though. I'm just kind of doing some stuff. Oh. Alright, we have eggs in the pockets. That would be fun if this one was shiny, wouldn't it? Yeah, I'm going to be doing some changes to my layout for the stream, Andy. I'm looking forward to it. I might need to pick your brain on some stuff at some point, too. I think you said Eli either did or does stream. I don't know how much time you spent kind of watching what he does, but any thoughts, feelings, opinions that you'll have on it after the fact may be appreciated, because the goal is to make sure that it's readable and stuff. Brain in one piece. Oh, no, I would kind of make the change, have you look at it, and just decide, oh yeah, that looks good, or oh no, I don't like that. I'm not going to like make you do the science on it and tell me what you think. It's more like, I'll just rearrange some stuff and be like, alright, what would you, like, what do you like, what do you hate? And then you'll tell me what, you know, what you like and what you hate. You know, that's true. I'm also, like, not good at Discord, so we'll see what happens on that one, but I'm not opposed to it. I like Eli, I just haven't seen him in forever. This one up here has swirly whirlies coming out of it. I want to see what we got. What do we got? Is that a Slowpoke? Looks like a Slowpoke. We're gonna do the switch Pokemon's thing. And I'm gonna grab... we're gonna grab this guy. So this is the part that I was talking about specifically. I'm gonna jump in to a max raid battle. Yes, I've been hatching them for 2 weeks-ish. Not a whole lot of time, maybe an hour or two. Like, I mean, it sounds like a lot when you're talking about just wasting time running in circles, but I spent probably a good 10 hours working on getting a shiny Machop, so an hour or two on a Cufant is not so very bad. But yeah, so this is where the music can get a little bit loud, and I'll demonstrate like kind of a more obnoxious thing. There's gonna be like this loud booming noise when I send out the big dragon. You just let me know if it seems disruptive. I'm gonna shut up for a second. That was kind of the whole... Like, it seemed aggressively loud. I think what Discord's supposed to do, or not Discord, OBS is supposed to do is when I talk, if the background audio is competing too much with me, it's supposed to kind of shush it for a little bit so you can hear me, but a big thing is I want to make sure that the sound design is pretty good. I don't want the volume level jumping up and down a whole lot. I find that to be really distracting. I appreciate that, friend. And honestly, if we're being real, most people watch Twitch streams on things like laptop and phone speakers, not on like big sound systems or fancy headsets or anything, so that's probably for the best. As long as it don't sound like shit, I don't care much. It's gonna bug me if it sounds like shit, actually, but yeah. It's fine. We're having fun. I'm fighting a Slowpoke who has yellow on his forehead because that's how the new games work. If you're not familiar with them, they call them regional variants. So he evolves into a poison type instead of a water type, which is kind of funky. Just part of the reason I know Pokemon's not your thing. I still kind of want to talk you into gutting it because I like the Pokemons, but like, I don't know. It's been fun playing with Nico a little bit. Yeah, it's been a little bit since I've seen him around, but it's I usually don't have a whole lot of friends who play Pokemon with me. Now, whether that's because I take it more seriously than they do, or just because they're not Pokemon guys, I'm not super sure. But, you know, it's fun to have people to play with. I'm gonna catch this Slowpoke. Probably. It might break out. I don't know. Got it. Not that I have a bunch of Slowpokes. I kind of probably shouldn't wasted the Pokeball on it. That's okay. It doesn't matter. Cool, so we got some stuff. I like the stuff. Yeah, and this gen honestly was a one that kind of whiffed for a lot of people. I was whining about it earlier a little bit because it's the only thing that I talk about most of the time, but in the context of Pokemon. But the whole removing the national Pokédex thing really kind of pushed a lot of people who, especially like older fans who had a lot of favorites from previous generations, it just kind of shoved them out of the game. I actually was not intent on buying this one. And then Leanne was like, no, you have to get it. You haven't got, like, you've gotten every Pokemon game on release day for years. And I was like, yep, not this one. And then she was like, after work, can we go to Best Buy for no reason? And I was like, yeah, that sounds not suspicious at all. Let's go. And then she turned around and bought it because, you know, I'm not good at seeing things coming. So I did end up playing it on release day. And I will say it was worth it, I guess. It's worth it now. I guess that's probably the best way to put it. Post DLC, the games feel complete enough to be worth it. Oh no, and here's the thing. I do not expect you to get Pokemon. I know it's not your thing. I'm not trying to talk you into it. This is just more me rambling about the game itself. Although you suggested I check out Phoenix. Now, is Phoenix cross-platform or multiplayer in any capacity, or would me playing it on PC not really matter? I know you described it as being kind of Breath of the Wild-esque, but if it's something that's going to support some sort of trading or battling or teaming up mechanic, I would want to get it on a platform where I can play it with people. If there isn't, then I can just kind of get it on the PC and just chill in here on it instead of trying to put it on the little handheld thing. That's awesome. Yeah, I know Breath of the Wild I don't think has any multiplayer functionality either, so that's fair. And I like games like that, you know what I mean? Like, don't get me wrong, online gameplay is fine, and I do thoroughly enjoy it when the timing is appropriate, you know what I mean? A big thing is I don't like getting like ultra competitive with people online. Like there's some people who like you get online with them and they just take the games way too seriously. I feel like that kind of saps the fun out of it. So a game that's like an offline single player sort of thing. Like I was a big fan of the Tomb Raider refresh that happened all through like the 2010s. I don't know if you played any of those. I wouldn't shut up about them for a couple years there. I really liked those. Breath of the Wild is really good. Mario Odyssey is really good. So, you know, that's a game. It looked pretty neat from the trailers that I had watched. And here's the thing. That's a lot of fun. That is a big thing, though. If the game's not going to support online multiplayer to give it, like, replay value or give it some extra life, the storyline needs to be good enough to carry it. You know what I mean? If the game, isn't compelling without multiplayer, it's not worth picking up. I mean, that seems like a no-brainer, but that's the big reason that a lot of people, like yourself, looked at Sword and Shield and just didn't pick it up. You know what I mean? There was some element about the game that you just didn't care for, and it didn't offer enough to kind of offset that. Give me like 5 seconds. I just gotta go open a door really quick. Sorry, we have 2 gaming PCs in one little office. It's not that little, it's smallish. But it kind of gets a little hot in here when you got both of them running under load and stuff. Like I can feel the temperature dropping just from having that door open. 2 hours collecting pomegranates. I'm assuming that's in-game and you're not just wandering around in the hills outside trying to find pomegranates. I don't think they grow around here, so I'm guessing the game. Yeah, and here's the thing. That's fine. I've spent a lot of the time in Breath of the Wild just milling around trying to collect the right sort of parts to find one thing or the other. Here, you know what? To answer a question for me, did you play Breath of the Wild, or did you end up skipping over that in favor of other games? I don't remember. I know we've played Smash together. I don't really remember the other games that you had for the Switch. I could check. It's a race. Let's see if you type faster than I scroll. Not seeing it. Doesn't look like you played it. Haha! Ever so slightly faster. Is it? Oh man, it took a minute to come through. It's cheating, I guess. Yeah, so it's a good game. It is a lot of fun. I obviously would recommend it. We talked about that already, but it is a game that, if kind of open world, just kind of do what you want games aren't your style, you may not like it. I might, I don't know, maybe next Friday, if you have any passing interest in it, switch over and play some Breath of the Wild on stream. But the idea is, it's open world. You literally start the game, go through the brief tutorial area, and then they're just like, go, figure it out. And then you can literally walk a straight line and go fight the final boss of the game with 3 hearts and no armors, fresh out of like the starting area if you want to. Or you can spend, 400 hours wandering around the world, finding every little secret, nook and cranny, unlockable piece of armor, every little tiny nugget of anything, and then just skip the final boss entirely, because you don't have to finish it, you know what I mean? Because the other thing is, if you beat Ganon, the final boss, I hope that's not a spoiler that Ganon is a bad guy. If you're familiar with the franchise, it shouldn't be. But if you beat Ganon, the game literally goes, wow, you did it. Let's load that save from before you did it. And then it spits you back out outside of his room, and then that's the end of it. Like, there's no post-game area, there's no payoff other than, like, the post-credit scenes and some little kind of, like, setup, I guess, probably for what's going to end up being the new, like, the sequel. So you can literally be as direct or indirect as you want and just meander around like an idiot in the game for hours on end. Here, this will do a good job of illustrating it. I'm going to go to my profile this time. So I've got 500 something hours of Pokemon Sword and 300 of Smash. Neither of those probably surprise you, you know me. But what might surprise you is I've got 365 hours of Zelda on file. Because there is, in fact, that much just junk to do if you like the game. If it's not your thing, it's not your thing. But there are things to do if that's your style. So, and if you end up with 60 bucks, and maybe once you've beaten Phoenix, check it out. If Phoenix has a more intensive, like, I shit you not, Breath of the Wild literally does not have a story. That literally goes, oh good, you're awake. Let's show you how to climb shit and walk, and here's a sword. Awesome. There you go. And then that's it. There's no, like, you get like flashbacks and stuff to kind of like atmospheric storytelling, but it's not like you have a party. It's not like characters are like telling you all of this stuff. Like, it is literally just like, here's Hyrule, figure it out, and then you're turned loose. You know what I mean? So if Phoenix is telling you a story, that's awesome, and you might really like that. Breath of the Wild is literally just you playing as Link, meandering around like an idiot until you manage to beat the game or give up on it. I love it. But I also love things like Minecraft and other games where it just kind of turns you loose and is like, yeah, you'll have fun, go nuts. So if that's not your style, it's not your style. Don't feel bad about it. But, and yeah, you can spend, so Breath of the Wild does have kind of an upgrading thing as well. So you can't craft weapons and you can't really upgrade weapons. You just sort of find them, unlock them, or purchase them. The armor has some of the most obnoxious, and in a good way, like, it's just some of the most time-consuming things, because like there'll be like mini bosses that are either exceedingly rare or just very powerful and hard to kill, and the only way to upgrade your armor will be with like 6 copies of a drop from that mini boss. So you have to wait for it to respawn and then defeat it again and just kind of pile up all of these resources, all the while you're using up your randomly generated and found weapons. But it's really cool, and the game itself is a lot of fun, so it gives you a lot of things that you can just kind of pour time into. Like, I don't know if you said that you had seen some of like the reviews and stuff. I don't know if the term Korok had ever come up. K-O-R-O-K. They're these little green forest dudes, well, forest spirits. There are 999, there's damn near 1,000 of them hidden around Hyrule. And I mean hidden, just kind of like you'll be wandering around, and if you solve just this little tiny mini puzzle, one of them will pop out and give you a Korok seed. In order to 100% the game, technically you have to find all 1,000 or so of those Koroks. In fact, because I did it earlier and I'm going to do it again, bear with me for a second. Breath of the Wild Korok Seeds map. I'm going to put it on screen for you so you can see what I'm talking about, because this thing is just redonkulous here. We're going to hit that image search button. Oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That's a huge picture too, very high res. It's got to load. Give me a second here. Holy heck, whoever put this together is a genius. So we're going to, and full screen. So this right here is the map. Each one of these little sort of teardrop golden dudes is a Korok seed. They are hidden all across the world of Hyrule, and this is a topographical map, so all the little circles and squiggles, those refer to elevation. It is an enormous map, and you can see how many of these little droplets are all over the map. Technically, in order to 100% them, you need to go to every blue spot on the map. These things here, each one of those is kind of like a mini dungeon called a shrine. Each one of the droplets is a Korok seed, and there's a handful of other things that you also need to complete in order to beat the game. It has the capacity to be enormously time-consuming if you're willing to spend the time on it. It's a lot of fun, and if you're the kind of person who will just like get home from work and be like, I just want to chill and wander around for a little bit and just kind of play my game, like, this is such a nice, just ambient, relaxing, like, don't stress about it sort of game. But if you're like, there are some people who like, they can't, they need, like, the game needs to tell them what's next. If that's your thing, don't worry about it. You know what I mean? I'll play Minecraft and just wander around like an idiot for 6 hours, just finding shit in the ground. Like, it doesn't bug me. But yeah, if you find it, especially if you find it on sale, dude, get it. It's a good game, and for any sale price, it's 100% worth it, even if it's not totally your genre. Only downside is I can't have you like swing over to my place and have me like give you a cool sword to start out or some armor or something like that. There's no multiplayer anything. You just get it and go, and you don't get to play with friends. So it's good though. And I like games like that. Another one, and it's not the same thing, but Super Mario Odyssey is one that I do recommend if you haven't picked it up. It's another, like, single-player, wander around, just have a good time with it sort of game. Similar to Breath of the Wild in the sense that your goal is to go around and collect some quantity of the things and ultimately beat the final boss, right? But it's not really open world. There is a story. It does slowly progress and unlock stuff for you as you go through it, but it's another game that's a lot of fun. If you've ever played, like, for example, if you played Mario 64 or Sunshine or Galaxy, it just feels like the next one in that line of games. So Breath of the Wild doesn't really feel substantially similar to anything before it. I guess the original Legend of Zelda from like the Nintendo Entertainment System back in like the early 80s, if I had to pick something to say it was similar to. Because that game, you've seen the memes, you know, you start out and there's the dude in the cave and he says, it's dangerous to go alone. Here, take this. And he gives you a sword, and then it's like, here, you figured it out. Like, that's exactly what Breath of the Wild's like, but the world is behemoth. It is absolutely massive. It's 3D, and there's just no sense of direction like that. Yes, so I'm glad you brought that up. And honestly, dude, I gotta say, you were really making me want to switch over to play Breath of the Wild for a little bit, but we're gonna hold off on that for next Friday. The biggest complaint that people had about Breath of the Wild is that unlike previous Zelda games, there are not really any major dungeons. It's like, that was always the thing about Zelda, is, you know, like, I don't know if you've ever played any of them, but I'm gonna use Ocarina of Time as kind of an example. It's one that a lot of people are at least kind of familiar with. At the beginning, I'll only touch on the first part of the game. You know, Link makes his way out of the Kokiri Forest, and he needs to unlock the Sacred Realm. And in order to do that, he needs to get these treasures. So he needs to go back to the Kokiri Forest because there's a dungeon there that's going to give him like the Forest Dweller's gem. And then he needs to go out to the Zora's Realm to get the Water Gem, and he needs to go visit the Gorons to get the Fire Gem. These are important because those three gems together unlock a place called the Sacred Realm, which is necessary for moving forward to the next part of the plot. Each one of those places has this massive dungeon. It takes forever to solve, lots of puzzles, lots of thinking, especially the Zora one. The Water Temple is always a pain. Breath of the Wild doesn't really have that. To switch back really quick, I still have it open here, so we're just going to do a little bit of this action. Each of those blue things, not the kind of weird angular ones like this, but like these other smaller diamond-shaped ones. Each one of those is something called a shrine, which is like a mini puzzle. We're talking, I don't know, 5 minutes or less to solve it, even if you don't really know what you're doing. Like, they're pretty quick. And they'll reward you with a little tiny trinket called a spirit orb. For every 4 spirit orbs you get, you can unlock something, be it more stamina for things like running and climbing, or an extra heart, just so you can take more damage before you would die. But it's not like there's any like giant dungeon that you go to solve problems, to solve puzzles, to advance the story. It's a lot more lightweight, which is a shame, you know what I mean? Because like one of the big things that Zelda players love is the puzzles, and this game feels like it kind of missed it, but that's the other big thing, and part of the reason that I still... that was close. Almost the right right nature, definitely the right stats. Dang. But no, that's one of the things people are really hoping for Breath of the Wild 2. Is Breath of the Wild 1 kind of lacked dungeons. There wasn't really a lot in the way of like cave systems to explore. Like, it was a lot of just like, here you are on the surface of the world, wander around and find your shit. Breath of the Wild's sequel, and if you haven't seen it, I'll shoot you a trailer for it sometime. I'll even shoot you the slightly longer video where a dude kind of breaks it down and tries to show you the trailer in chronological order so you can kind of get a better idea what's happening. The thing basically takes place underground in a cave system that seems to be underneath Hyrule Castle. There's a lot of speculation that the sequel is going to take place in the same Hyrule that Breath of the Wild took place in, which, I mean, it's a big world. It would be nice for them to be able to reuse it, but that they're going to add a lot of dungeons and other underground areas, basically just adding new structures to it. So if you like stuff like that, like the levels that are giant puzzles, maybe hold off on Breath of the Wild. Once again, unless you find it on sale, because it doesn't have as much of that going on. But keep your eye on the sequel. It might, and I will say, it feels jarring to play a sequel Zelda game without playing the first one from that leg. So what I mean is, if you've seen it before, every every Zelda game takes place in one giant continuity. There's a timeline. So there's a game that canonically takes place first, and they kind of go in order. So games that happen later in the storyline will make references to events that happened in earlier games. And games that happen first might set up a weapon that, oh my god, they used that in the game that came out later, or something like that. And they're released all over the place. So the game from like 2013, Skyward Sword, was the first game in the timeline. So like the first game released like in the 70s fell somewhere kind of in the later middle portion of the timeline. So it's not like they're just releasing them in order and telling a continuous story. So there's no need to play all of the games that happened in the timeline before Breath of the Wild, but what I would suggest is if the sequel ends up looking like it's 100% your speed, at minimum, watch like a trailer or like one of those summary videos for Breath of the Wild, just because it'll fill you in on what this game was setting up and kind of what to expect, because what it's going to do is the sequel's going to kick off and basically act like, oh, you should know this part, right? You beat the old one? You remember how this one ended? Cool, well, we're resuming right there. I actually made that mistake, so I never played the Wind Waker, which was a GameCube game back in the day. It was the one where, from Smash Bros., you know, Toon Link? It was the one that Toon Link was introduced in as a character. I never played that, but I did get Phantom Hourglass, which is a DS title, and I did not know it at the time, but that was a sequel to the Wind Waker. And that game, a lot of the setup and the characters that it was introducing and the people who were on screen made no sense to me. Now, that's fine. You know what I mean? It doesn't, like, you don't necessarily have to be able to sit down and just follow along with everything that's going on, but at the same time, going back, and I still haven't played the Wind Waker, but I've gone back and I've watched enough, like, Zelda theory videos and, like, crap like that on YouTube that I kind of understand where the game was coming from. And it really helped fill in stuff that I had missed in the Wind Waker. Yeah, and here's the thing. The Switch, I will say this. It's a handheld system. I mean, I'm not playing it like that, it's docked right now, but you know what I mean? The big thing about it is, like, it's a Game Boy. It's something you can take on the go. So, like, I've got my gaming PC. I know you've got your PlayStation 4, and you're hoping to turn that into a PS5 sometime. Making it so that you end up getting, you know, 3 dozen games for the Switch might not be realistic, because you got a more powerful console already sitting at home. This is really kind of more of a Game Boy, but, like, keep your eyes peeled for a diamond in the rough. Like, you've got your game Phoenix something, can't remember the name of it already, but that's fine. It's one of those games where whether you needed to get it for the Switch or not, because I think it is on multiple platforms, whether it's cross-platform compatible, if there's multiplayer. I think the answer on that was no, but it's one of those games that it's so worth having, just because on the Switch, dude, you can bring it with you. Come over to my place and hang out. I'll design my scenes and get your opinion. You can play it and show me around the game, and I don't need to like come over to your house to have you show me how it works. Like the portability can really make or break it. So just keep your eyes out. The Zelda games are some of the classic Nintendo ones, and depending on what type of game you look for, it could really end up being a gem for you to just kind of throw in your pocket. I kind of did the same thing. I played a lot of my Switch last year because I would take it to work, and every day on lunch I'd have like an hour, and I would sit down and I would play, and I had friends that I would play with, so we'd play Smash Bros. Or we'd play Pokemon. Not as much Mario Kart, weirdly enough, although I will say this, Ryan, did just get one for his birthday a couple months ago. So he has a Switch and he has Mario Kart, and I know he is itching to play with some people. So kind of stash that in the back of your mind, maybe, if you'd have it. Obviously I'm streaming off my Switch right now. Like this is my Pro controller. I'm literally, where is it? There's the camera. Like this is the actual console. It's not an emulator. But what I could do is have us all get online and play Mario Kart or Smash Bros. Or any game that you might have. And we could like hop in Discord and stream our gameplay together, which would be a lot of fun. So don't stress about it either way, but it's nice to have stuff like that. And I just, ever since not going to work, like being here, working from home, I haven't been throwing my Switch in my bag. I haven't been playing it on lunch. Like my gameplay on it has really faltered a lot, you know? So I'm kind of in the same boat as you, but getting a couple shinies recently has been a big boon to my interest in playing on it. Sorry, I'm getting comfy here. We need, honestly, here's the thing. Smash Bros. Online is fine. It's fine because the lag and these just little blips of latency. Like we were playing the other day and there were like 4 people in it, and I think the more people you add to the lobby, the harder it is to mitigate lag. So like I get it. It's fine. I'm not mad about it. But it was like every maybe second there were 2 or 3 little micro stutters, like little tiny freezes where it just like wouldn't pick up input. I remember the whole first stock that I was in there. It just felt like every time I'd push a button for it to like throw an attack, it would just miss, or just like it wouldn't pick up the input. So being able to sit down and play games in person, whatever it is, Mario Kart, Smash Bros, anything really, being able to do it in person would make me so happy. Just kind of take the latency and those little tiny micro stutters out of the equation. Although I am getting used to playing Smash Online, so if people end up online again, I may attempt to join. Oh, I've been picking up way too many eggs by accident, haven't I? It's okay. We'll hatch them eventually. Responsibly. Now that's the whole thing, you know what I mean? Like, I know tomorrow there's some sort of something going on. I don't know how much I'm supposed to disclose about that, so I'm going to kind of hold that thought there, but I will be there, and I will probably have my Switch and a controller in my bag, so depending on who's there doing what, I may attempt to join in on festivities. Actually, could you do me a favor? Text me about this. Don't feel the need to throw it in the chat, but any interest in me throwing a GameCube adapter and some controllers in a bag to take with, or would that not be appropriate, or would it be against the spirit of what's happening there? There's no wrong answer, but if there's any kind of add-on equipment you would like me to bring along, it's probably not an issue. So throw it out there. But yeah, I think that would be fun. And here's the thing, the way I've been handling it through the pandemic stuff is I will let myself see a limited set of people. So like I'm seeing a couple people, including you, this coming weekend. My rule on that is that I'm not allowed to see anyone for 1 to 2 weeks leading up to it and 1 to 2 weeks afterwards, so I can kind of monitor for symptoms, make sure that I didn't catch anything while I was with whatever person or people that I was with. I figure as long as we do a little bit of like cautious self-isolation and just make sure to wear masks whenever possible, that's about the best we can expect to do. You know what I mean? I don't think it's entirely reasonable to say no one's allowed to ever see anybody ever, but just be a responsible adult person about it. Wear a mask and don't just hang out with everybody all the time. Like, just minimize how much you could spread it. Like, I'm seeing you tomorrow. I'm not going to then turn around and go to see my mom the next day and then my grandma the day after that. I'm going to, like, take some time between each of them and just make sure we're good. I'm restating this because it says I have 2 viewers. Obviously, you were viewer number 1. I don't know who number 2 might be, but viewer number 2, if you're listening, be responsible. Don't get a pandemic, please. Be healthy and such. It is important to me that you don't get that you don't get sick. But yeah, it's been difficult. Although I gotta say, I got the Ethernet adapter for the Switch. I've been loving it. I had probably about a 3-hour session of Smash Bros. With Officer John, and we didn't have a single blip of lag the entire time. It was like sitting down playing in person. It was very crazy. So, you know, as long as people have the opportunity to set up the appropriate equipment, meeting up in person might not strictly be necessary either. I know it's not an option for everyone. I don't know where your setup is or anything like that, but yeah, no, please take off. I'm, as you may have noticed, in a rambly mood. I just need a tiny little topic and I will just not shut up for the next 4 hours. It's good for streaming, I think, assuming people like what I have to say. But no, go get yourself ready. Oh, you have work tomorrow still. What time do you get off work, if you don't mind? Just so I can throw that in the back of my head. I know Leanne's hoping to be able to get there to help set up some stuff and see the cat, I believe. I think. Yes. Neat. Leanne has confirmed she would like to go over there a little early, so I just want to make sure we'll get to see you then. 1? Ah, neat. Yeah, we'll, I think the number we're shooting for is 4, but I will let you know if for some reason that changes. I think 4 is a good target, though. But anyway, go to sleep. If you're done at 1, you're probably not starting at 11, so I want to make sure you get to go to bed in time to get up in the morning. I'll catch you next time, my friend. Now I gotta pick something to talk about unrelated to all that stuff. Oh boy. What do I want to talk about? Let's talk about... No, we're not going to talk about that. I was going to complain about Congress, but I don't know. Pokemon and politics feels like a weird mix. If you care about it, throw it in the chat. If you don't, then we won't. But there's been some interesting stuff going on in the United States. People going and hanging out in the Capitol who probably shouldn't be there, but I can appreciate the idea that you don't like what the government's doing and wanting to go say hi. What their specific motivations were, it's debatable, but it's fine. We're just gonna not think about it too hard. Let's stick to the Pokemon topic. Do you guys know what a stack underflow glitch is? I'm assuming no, unless you're as big of a nerd as I am. It's not every day that I meet someone that's that dorky, so I'm just going to kind of explain it anyway. And it was something that especially the older Pokemon games, like Generation 1 and 2, were vulnerable to, but the way they worked is those games were not coded in a particularly reliable way, so if a number got too big, or if it got too small, it would actually kind of wrap back around to the opposite value. So, and this is not how, like I can go smaller than this, but let's say the scale is from 0 to 100. If the number would be pushed over 100, usually the game has some sort of stop in place to tell it, no, you're not allowed to go that high. It'll cut it off at 100. But if you manage to force it over to 101, it'll zip around below 0 to like negative 100. It's weird, and I think the scale it uses is like 0 to 255 or something like that. Like it uses an integer scale based off of, what was it, 16-bit code back then? Doesn't really matter. But the idea there is, because the numbers aren't supposed to do that, and because the game recycles the way it stores some data between different areas of the map, you can get some very weird things to happen if you can trick the game into doing a stack underflow glitch. So, I have multiple Mews, most of which were legitimate event distributions, one of which was kind of a pet project of mine. So if you have a 3DS, you can go buy this now. It's $5. But they re-released Pokemon Generations 1 and 2. That's Red, Blue, Yellow, Gold, Silver, and Crystal versions as part of the Nintendo Virtual Shop kind of thing. So you can run basically like an emulator on your Game Boy. So it'll let you play the Gen 1 games on your official Nintendo handheld as official Nintendo software. No need to worry about piracy, no need to worry about anything else, right? And what made it particularly interesting is they actually made those forward compatible with Pokemon Bank, and by extension, Pokemon Home and Sword and Shield. So if you get a Pokemon in red, blue, yellow, gold, silver, or crystal version on your original, on your 3DS, like your official Nintendo console, you can move them forward to the new games. You know what? I'm going to show you this really quick, actually. This is cool. We're going to zip out. I'm going to close the game down for a second. We're going to switch over to Pokemon Home, and then I will be back to hatch more eggs in a minute. But this is to illustrate a point for you. So the stack underflow glitch can be used if you know what you're doing to do anything. And that, all right, so that sounds a little broad. I do in fact mean to do anything. You can do some glitches within the game, and look it up. It's a speedrunning category, or I think it is. People who their goal is to beat Pokemon Red, Blue, Yellow as fast as possible. And there's this glitch you can do that makes it so that the door going out of your bedroom in the game, or the door going out of the house, goes to a different location. So the way doors worked in the old games is they were set up to warp points. So when you step onto that tile going into the door, it will now warp your character to a different location, usually inside the house for which the door is attached, right? Using that stack underflow glitch, you can switch it so that it links to a different location. So there's a whole category of speedrunning where people will go in and they will try and get a stack underflow glitch to fire so that they can have the bedroom door that will take you downstairs to see your mom at the very beginning of the game warp to the Hall of Fame. So the world record for beating the game is like 46 seconds or something like that, because technically that puts you into the Hall of Fame. It's bananas. It's absolutely insane. But another thing that you can do is you can edit, like not paying attention right now. How many points do I have? We're pausing for a second. 1,700. Nice. We are going to send those points to this game. The way that you can use that stack underflow glitch, we're going to get 56 points. That's good enough for me. So I don't know if you're familiar with it, and I'm not going to explain to you how to do the whole thing here because it's easier with a visual aid. But if you do a couple little glitchy things in red, blue, and yellow version, you can actually encounter a wild Mew. It's a glitch. You're not supposed to be able to, and by extension, the games won't let you transfer it forward. So if you try to transfer forward a glitched Mew, like if you did that glitch and tried to catch it, it'll tell you that there seems to be a problem with the Pokemon and that it's not eligible for transfer. Darn. By using the stack underflow glitch in a very precise, and I do mean very precise fashion, it is not easy to do, you can overwrite the original trainer, the trainer ID, and I think the secret ID was part of it, all the numbers and criteria about it that mark that Mew as being yours, and by extension, a problem, with an event Mew that was distributed for Generation 1. Allow me to show you where I did that. Here's my mythical bucket. See this Mew? No, we're not going to save. I'm clicking the wrong button. This Mew right here, we're going to pull up its summary. If you look, and I can't move my cursor around, so you're just going to have to follow along with me. Does it not show you the thing? All right, I guess you're just going to look in the little tile bar down at the bottom. So you can see it's got a Cherish Ball in the upper left of that bar down at the bottom right next to its name. It's a level 100. A little pink swirly thing means it's a psychic type. And then there's that thing that kind of looks like a keyhole, but I think it's supposed to be a person shape. It's like a little silhouette, and it says GF. This was an event Mew distributed by Game Freak, or GF. This is a legitimate event distribution Mew. Check this out. If I go back, we're going to zip through all of my Pokédex because I got to go all the way back to Gen 1. So bear with me. We're doing some scrolling. Yes, this is the living Pokédex. I said I'd show it off. We're doing it. Right here. Look at that Mew. See how it's red and white Pokeball, so it's not an event, or at least it's not an event the normal way you would see it distributed. It's a level 48, it's a psychic type. The original trainer's still GF. Let me see if the summary will tell me anything of value here. So you see how it says it seems to have had a fateful encounter in the Kanto region in the good old days, capable of taking hits. I caught this Mew using the Mew glitch in the Virtual Console Red version, because when they re-released them, they did not patch them, they didn't otherwise fix them, they just kind of released them in their raw state. And then I used the stack underflow glitch to overwrite the original trainer and the ID number so that it would be an authentic Mew. Another way you can tell, do you see, same bar, you got the Pokeball, you got Mew, level 48, Psychic Swirl, Person Shape, GF, English, and then a little Game Boy icon. See that? That's neat. So this one's got like a little sort of loop-de-doop-de plus shape. That, I believe, means that it was caught in Generation 7. I think. That little pentagon shape, that was the shape for Kalos. So this Meganium was actually originally from Generation 6. A lot of the more recent generations picked up kind of icons like that. Like, see these ones? They've got like the Pokeball with like the angular tips in that slot. That means it was caught in Generation 8. So you can use that icon to kind of tell where it came from. It's like a set symbol. It's really cool. This Mew has the Game Boy set symbol, meaning it's from red, blue, yellow, gold, silver, or crystal. If we zip down, and you're going to bear with me for a second because I'm scrolling, and unless you have a magic way to make it go faster, that's what we're doing now. I'm going to go back to my mythical Pokemon slot. This one has the pentagon shape. This Mew is an authentic event Mew from Kalos. We can see that if we go in here. You can see in the lower right, that box. Oh, it's from the Hoenn region. It's from Generation 6. It was an event given out during the Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire time frame. Stack underflow stuff is very cool. I'm going to go ahead and close this down now, but you can do so much with stack underflow. I recommend Googling it. It's very complicated stuff. It involves triggering a series of glitches intentionally and then using them in a very precise fashion, sometimes taking like a very specific number of steps in particular directions, sometimes throwing out a specific number of items from your bag or rearranging things in a certain pattern. It sounds weird and it sounds kind of made up. You know what I mean? Like, why does taking 10 steps right and 2 steps down result in my trainer ID changing? Well, the reason is that Pokemon Red and the other games from that era reused variables. So if you know anything about coding, you kind of have to define a slot called a variable for where data is going to get stored. And then you can put data into that slot and you can kind of use it and reuse it as many times as you need. Well, as a programming shortcut and to save on memory in Generation 1, what they wound up doing was reusing the same variables in multiple places, depending on what you were doing. So if you were in a battle, that variable might be used to hold the last attack you used. But now in the overworld, that variable might be used for the front Pokemon of your party. Typically, one's not going to interfere with the other because when you go into the Pokemon battle and you pick an attack, that variable updates. And then when you go back to the overworld, when you move your party around or when you look at your party, it'll update again. So there's very rare instances where tinkering with a variable is going to start causing problems. But with the ability to do stack underflow, you can change the contents of that variable to be whatever you want it to be. And if you change enough of them, you can actually make it so that those start to overwrite permanently the characteristics of your Pokemon. Check it out. Google Pokemon Red Virtual Console Mew glitch. And just read up on it. There are articles and walkthrough guides that explain the exact process. I don't remember it off the top of my head. It's been about 2 years since I went through and did it, because it was around January of 2019 that I worked on that. But it is just bananas to me, the amount of stuff that you can do through things like Stack Underflow. It's just absolutely ridiculous. And I don't know, I'm just a huge fan of like weird stuff like that. Like, obviously no one planned it. Like, here's a glitch. It's not Stack Underflow, but if you play Gen 1, you know it. You go to Viridian City, you talk to the old guy, have him show you how to catch some Pokemon. Then you fly to Cinnabar Island, you surf up and down the side of the island, touching the coastline, and once you run into Missing No or M-Block, one of those glitchy, scrambly looking Pokemon, the item in the 6th slot of your bag will be multiplied by like 200. It's bananas. Why? Why is it multiplied by like 200? Well, it takes advantage of the same kind of thing where they're reusing variables. So that strip of land right down the side of Cinnabar Island doesn't actually have any key data for what Pokemon should appear there. As the game kind of thinks it's Cinnabar Island, but kind of thinks you're surfing, so there's not any list of Pokemon that should officially spawn. And normally they wouldn't, but because of the way that the old man catching tutorial works, it stores a piece of data in a variable that gets reused when determining what Pokemon you're going to run into in the wild. So by having the old man catch the Weedle, and then going to that location, you're influencing the game to make a decision that it otherwise wouldn't make that causes a wild Pokemon to appear that probably shouldn't. That entire process can result in you encountering Pokemon that aren't meant to exist, Pokemon that are too high of a level, and if you're familiar with it, you can actually fight Professor Oak using that glitch. You have to have a particular trainer name and some other stuff, so it's not like it'll work for anyone, but look it up if you haven't already. Like, if you're a big fan of the series, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. If you're not, then I might be kind of way over your head, but Google Professor Oak Battle Pokemon Red. You'll find YouTube videos of people completing this glitch where they end up fighting against Professor Oak, and he has a team that actually makes him the strongest trainer in the game, even stronger than the champion, your rival. All of these weird glitches, these odd, oh, talk to that guy, then go to this place and run up and down and then go over here, and like those things that seem like they make no sense. Like, why would that make a particular Pokemon appear? Or cause an item in your bag to get randomized in a particular way? It's all because of the weird programming shortcuts that were taken in the really early versions of the game. And it is profoundly interesting, to me anyway, to look at this content and just kind of understand how these glitches work. Because when I was a kid, like, I would look at the old man item multiplier glitch, right? Catch the Weedle, surf up and down. And like, when you're a kid, like, you're looking at that and you're like, oh, that's cool. Why'd they make it do that? You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't necessarily immediately dawn on you that it might not have been intentional. And then once it sinks in that it wasn't on purpose, you know, maybe whoever you're talking to explains to you that, oh, it's a glitch. That's not what it's meant to do. Then how does that happen? How did anyone ever find that? Like, what person in their right mind was like, I'm going to go around and talk to a bunch of random people in surfing spots and see if something happens, and happen to talk to that guy and then happen to surf? Probably no one. What happened was someone went out and did something they call data mining. Now, that can be a bad thing. Google does it. Geez, I'm implying that that's terrible. It probably is. But data mining basically involves taking a set of data, whatever it is, and just ripping into it to try and find out either greater patterns or some other piece of information that might be able to give you some insight you otherwise wouldn't have. Google might be able to use it to figure out like what searches are trending so that they can figure out what popular things are out there. They use that maybe to help provide ads. So like when you go and see like advertisements provided by Google AdSense, that's all generated through things like data mining. They'll aggregate some information, they'll go through, they'll analyze it, and they'll start putting out solutions to whatever problems they're detecting through that mining. Whether you think that's good or bad is up to you. General consensus, I think, is that it's questionable in the privacy department, and I would argue it's kind of bad because I like my personal information being personal, but I will leave that up to the average person to make their own choice. But for video games too, like when the Isle of Armor DLC came out for Sword and Shield, data miners were able to go in to the game files, and they were actually able to figure out what Pokemon had been modified and then removed from the code that were then going to be included in the Crown Tundra. So lists leaked months in advance of the release of the Crown Tundra alleging which Pokemon were going to come back, and they were 100% accurate. Every single Pokemon they listed returned. It was insane to me. But that's all data mining. So when you see all these weird things, especially earlier generation glitches where it's like, oh yeah, if you talk to that guy, then go here. Like the things that you can do, it's not like some person decided they were just going to go around and try every combination of every interaction you could possibly have in a game and just figured that, oh, eventually we'll get a glitch and it'll be cool. It's more like someone went through the code and using their own intellect figured out what points of the code might not handle an issue correctly. You know what I mean? What parts of the code could be subject to being tricked, and then went and attempted a trick based on their insight, and it worked. The results of that trick might be kind of a surprise. They might see it's vulnerable to some sort of glitch, try it, and it crashed and deleted their game. But some of them, like the old man glitch, whoopsie, well that turns out that it just accidentally stack underflows the item in your bag, so what it does is it reduces it so far that it flips around to being some giant number instead. Interesting stuff. Yeah, so I encourage you, if any of that sounded faintly interesting, go just Google some of the old early generation glitches. The more recent the games get, the less likely those glitches are going to be there. I mean, there were some glitches like, I don't know if you ever played Generation 6, Pokemon X and Y. There was a glitch with Gen 6 out there. The city Lumiose City, which is kind of like the Paris of that region. It's got the big light up tower in the middle and everything. There was a glitch with Lumiose City when the game first launched, where if you saved within Lumiose City, depending on where you were and certain characteristics of your save data, the game might accidentally corrupt and delete your save. It was just one of those, they weren't sure why, and I still don't know exactly what the coding was that went into it, but basically some combination of elements in Lumiose City could result in a saved game being damaged and not being able to be recovered. I think they ultimately put out a fix. I mean, I know they fixed the glitch. They put out like fortunately it was on the 3DS, which is the first Nintendo console to really do a good job with like downloadable updates. So they put out a patch to solve the issue, you know, just to fix whatever was wrong with it. And I believe as part of that patch, it was able to go in and recover lost save data. So if you had gotten stuck somehow, it would go and fix itself. But it was just very interesting to see that sort of glitch still exists. So while they've patched out the things, like the really obvious stuff, like talk to that guy and go walk over there and you'll get some random payoff, there are still programming oversights that can cause a problem, you know? Another example, kind of getting off of the thing, shiny for shiny. What shiny are you looking for, my friend? Mr. Delta Series 2009? I'm presently looking for some shinies. Don't know? I don't know either, man. I have some shinies. I've got a couple in-game, and I've got a couple more online. I've got a few that I'm a little attached to, because I use them for battles and stuff. Is there a shiny you're looking to get rid of, or are you just looking to kind of spice it up a little bit and get something new? Let's see, I'm gonna move this guy over. Haxorus. Here's the thing, I do quite like Haxorus. Let me see, let me see, let me see. I don't think I have a whole lot in-game right now. Like, I do have a couple shinies, but they're kind of for something. If you're willing to be patient with me, I will go ahead and hop over to my Pokemon home, and I'll take a quick peek and see if we've got anything in here that you would be interested in. Shiny Haxorus is cool. He's the one who's all black with the red on the side of his face, yeah? I'm a big fan. So let me take a quick peek. Be patient? Oh, I love that. Thank you. So I'm signing in here. I've got them all in one box, so it should be pretty easy to find. Some of them are kind of generic, and I actually, if you're interested in something like a Dratini Dragonair, something in that neighborhood, or like a Ralts, I think I have some of the Pokemon Go shinies. If that's not your thing, don't stress about it, but I've got them if you are interested in some capacity. 3 shinies for a legend. So are you looking for a shiny legend on that one, or let me see what we got. I'm gonna go find my shiny box real quick. So what legend Pokemon are you looking for? Shiny legend? Alright, so I don't have a whole ton of those. This right here, actually, the box on the left, is more or less every shiny I have that I don't otherwise have earmarked for something. So I will say this. Let me take a look at the shiny Zygarde. He only has the Aura Break ability, though I'm pretty sure with the ability patch, you could put that in. Let me see. So I'm kind of mulling over if there's anyone in here I genuinely don't care about. Now, is there something in here? Obviously, you're interested in the Zygarde. You're interested in the Rayquaza. Is there anyone else in here that you're also interested in at all for the Haxorus? Or are you really just kind of eyeing up those two there? No wrong answer. Just kind of curious. I'm always interested in a nice trade to pick up something spicy and new. Just those two? Let me see here. Mostly Zygarde. You said you're offering 3 shinies for one of these guys? May I ask what 3 shinies you've got on the table? I think I might be inclined to join you here. I know there's a little latency in the chat. Feel free to take your time on typing up some stuff. I'm not in a rush. stiff neck after sitting here for a couple hours. I'm gonna get a drink real quick. I think I'd be willing to take that trade, as long as you don't mind that this is one of the event ones, so it's in a Cherish Ball. If that doesn't bug you, I think you might have yourself a deal. Let me go ahead and move this fellow over. Now, are you looking to trade through... I don't know if... is Lycanroc in Sword and Shield, or is this going to need to be a Pokemon Home trade? It is in Sword and Shield? Alright, let me see here. Perfect. So I will go ahead, I'll switch back over. If I can propose a system here to make sure that everyone gets what they're looking for. Zygarde's a little more valuable than any of the guys that you're offering up, so I'm going to propose the following. You tell me if this is okay. I'm going to have you trade me the first shiny in exchange for one of those Cufants that I hatched earlier. The second shiny will be for the Zygarde. And then the third shiny will be for some other Pokemon from my PC. Is that something you'd be okay with? I don't want to have you give a shiny for nothing right up front, but I want to make sure I'm not getting ripped off for my Zygarde here. You know? Got it? Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and fire things back up, connect to the internet. I'll set a link code. We got 2 viewers in here. Let's hope that our other viewer person isn't up to no good. I'm going to go ahead and connect. This is exciting. I love trading with people. Thank you. This is fun. Connected to the internet. So I'm going to go ahead and set up a link trade. Let me see. How do we go about this? If you have multiples, I prefer the midnight form a little bit more. The night form, if possible. That would be awesome. So let me see. I want a link trade. You're going to set a link code. 5543, 5543. Is that a good enough code for you, my friend? That's my fiance's lucky number. She's making a face at me now. Some random person, don't worry about it. Alright, so I'm putting that live now. And then I'm gonna go ahead and give it a second to find you. Not rude, it's a good number. It's a number that I remember. But yeah, I figure I've had a lot of those legends in that box. They were event Pokemon from a little bit ago, so I'm not opposed to kind of giving them away if that ends up being the, like, it sounds like it's a good trade, you know? It'll be fun. Giving up a shiny Zygarde's a little bit of a frowny face, but picking up 3 new shinies, and I can think of someone that I think would really like that Lycanroc, so I think that'll be a fun thing to be able to give to someone as a gift. The Haxorus I actually have kind of a half a plan for in the back of my head, so that'll be cool. Yep, I'm hanging here. Would you mind if I was to take a minute, and actually I'm just going to assume that it's fine, I'm just going to continue liking my figure eights, working towards hatching an egg. I'm not in a major rush. You have the code. If you forget what it is, I can kind of read it off for you, but I'm just going to keep hatching some eggs. Throw it up in the chat whenever you are ready to go. I'm going to be online for probably about a half hour more, maybe a little less, so take some time, sort it out. I really do not mind. As you can see, I'm otherwise just kind of biking around in circles, hatching some elephants. Forgot I restarted the game, so it was over on the Pokédex. Oop, got a couple empty slots in the team I gotta go fill in. That is a lot of elephants. Don't worry about it. Do you know if it's just a temporary ban or some sort of issue with that? If you're being made to wait, I will throw this out here. I intend to stream Pokemon every Friday. Specifically Pokemon Sword and Shield. So I will be online, same channel, just kind of going in and out. A worst case scenario, if you're not able to get back online for some reason, I will be here again in the future. I will be happy to sit down with you on another day to throw a trade up. It's definitely not a problem. So I'm happy to hang here if you're able to get online and do a trade today. I've got the Zygarde on my PC already, so it's earmarked for you. Worst case scenario, I can always catch you next time and we can fire off a trade then. So if you've been hunting for one, you can kind of put that search at the end. I got your back. I gotta say, I'm such an impatient person, though. I just want to be done hatching the eggs and start using the team. Yeah, make sure I didn't accidentally hatch a shiny somewhere in here. Oh, don't worry about it, man. Here's the thing. I know the issues come up all the time. I don't know, because like I think Nintendo will do this, but if you disconnect from things in the middle of it, I think they'll give you kind of a temporary ban. But I've even, like, where I live now, I've got pretty good internet, but back at my parents' place, the internet connection just wasn't that great. So I had situations where I'd be, like, playing with people online and the internet would go out, and then you'd have, like a 3-day ban on your account and not be able to hop on and play anymore. That wasn't like I had disconnected or done anything malicious. The game just kind of bumped me off. So I'm not too worried about it. That Zygarde's been sitting on my PC for about 2 years now. So if you want it and are willing to put up some stuff for it, it is all yours. I've got him in my pocket here. He's set aside for you. So I'll be here. I'm going to keep hatching eggs for a bit. Yeah, I see what I mean. It's not too hard to happen, especially like I've got this. Actually, I don't think you can see it. It's that kind of spaceship looking dude up here. It's a very fancy router. I was actually lucky enough to get on sale. And I haven't really had internet issues since I got that, but my parents' place, they didn't have the fastest connection and they didn't have the fanciest hardware, and it was just so easy to accidentally get disconnected from stuff all the time. So definitely no worries. I have no hard feelings about waiting for you. I tend not to be in kind of the hot seat to pick up a whole bunch of trades, so it's not like I've received any other offers for them or anything, so it's all yours. Take some time, get your internet stuff sorted out, any temporary bans on. Friday, 7 p.m., just out of curiosity, so it's 11:30 where I am now. Are you Eastern time zone as well, or is 7 p.m. going to be a little earlier or later for you? I usually go live around 9:30 my time zone, that's why I ask. You're in Canada? Okay. Okay. And are you Eastern or Western Canada? I know the time zones will kind of straight through there depending on about where you are. Definitely don't feel the need to give me the name of a city or anything, but just whatever time it is right now for you, if you were to look at your clock, will be good enough for me to get an idea. Ontario? Very cool. Let me see. I'm going to do a little Googling on my other screen here. No, it looks like you are in my time zone, if I'm reading that correctly. So how about this? I am totally down. If you want, I'm usually not live just yet, but if you want to shoot me a direct message on Twitter, I think I have a link on my About page here, but it should also be Dude Esquire. It's going to have the same branding this channel has here. Shoot me a direct message whenever you're ready, and we'll be able to set it up that way, because I'm not going to be able to be on the air then. Fridays, I'm usually not able to get on until about 9:30 p.m. Don't have Twitter? Let me see. So I'm just kind of doing a little thinking, so I'd love to be able to get in touch with you. It's not a problem. I know that I won't be here. If you're able to be on closer to 9:30, we've got a date. If not, you know what we're going to do? I'm going to put it on my calendar for you. I like you. Delta Series 2009. Let me grab my calendar here. Put just a little appointment in. Trade Zygarde. I'm going to throw it up for 7 o'clock, just as a reminder for me. I'm going to set The code, once again, 5543, 5543. Same numbers we talked about just a minute ago. So what I'll plan to do, we're kind of talking about it now just so you and I are on the same page in terms of what we're shooting to do there. I will just fire up my game. I'll go live with the trade offer. I'm going to put the same... sounds good, man. But yeah, I'll go live with the trade offer. I'll put up a trade. I'll use that as the room code. We'll do the same thing. I'm going to have you trade the first Pokemon over to me in exchange for just one of these Cufants here. Second Pokemon, I'll trade you the Zygarde in exchange for whichever one comes second, and then you'll hand off the third one last. So we'll kind of put that in our pocket here. If I'm able to see you next Friday on stream, I'll see you here. If not, I will try and pop in at 7 o'clock. Worst case scenario, I know you said you don't have a Twitter. If you end up getting one, feel free to shoot me a message. If not, I'll be here. I do also have a... Not that YouTube's a great place for messaging, I don't think anyway. I'm not familiar with how the community tab works, but I put a lot of these videos on my YouTube channel, Dude Esquire VODs. If you're able to get in touch with me there, just know that the channel's open and I'm happy to chat. So I think what I'm going to do, because I'm kind of getting a little tired out now, I'm going to go ahead and pop probably 3 more eggs, and then I'm going to go ahead and shut it down for the night. But yeah, this is going to be fun. We're going to be able to get some trades going, get you the Zygarde, and honestly, I don't know if you've gone down to the Crown Tundra. There's an item you can get there called the Ability Patch. It'll let you take that Zygarde, whose ability is Aura Break, which is just kind of the normal ability. Yeah, you can get the ability patch and it'll let it switch over to Power Construct, which is his hidden ability, so you'll be able to have the shiny Zygarde that can turn into the complete form. Or at least that's how it should work, if I'm not mistaken. So, that is actually really cool. I'm actually in the process of saving up some Dynite ore so that I can get an ability patch for a couple of Pokemon that I have, like the Cufant that I've been hatching here. It's got its default ability, and I need to get the heavy metal one, so we'll see. Hey, it's been a pleasure having you on, Delta. I will catch you next time. Oh, that's exciting, though. Trading's always fun. That's the big thing, is the reason that I've gotten into Pokemon. Delta, I'm just kind of chatting here. It's not directed at you. Don't feel like you got to stick around. No, the reason that I got into Pokemon was I like the battling and the trading. I've always enjoyed being able to get on and kind of interact with friends, family members, whoever I can find. You know what I mean? So I'm hatching these Pokemon as part of a team that I'm going to use when I go to battle. And getting an opportunity to go trade some Pokemon with someone, I'm never really opposed to that. You know, they say you got to be careful, make sure the Pokemon you're getting are legitimate and not hacked, but I'm comfortable taking that gamble here. Obviously, if Delta's willing to throw a Pokemon over to me first, I can also take him in and just come through. You know, and there's some things that you can look for to make sure they're legit. But either way, I'm excited. It's going to be fun. It's always fun to have someone in the chat. I feel like it's easier to kind of hang here and, I don't know, put on a show. You've got someone to talk to instead of just sitting here in silence, right? Trying to come up with ideas to talk about alone. I've spent, what, 30 minutes chatting about the stack underflow glitch in the old video games? It's something. So yeah, this is one of the 3 eggs that I'm going to pop before I go ahead and take off for a little while. Over the weekend, I am shooting to try and get myself a new layout for the way I've got my my scenes working here. So when I'm back on Monday, possibly with the guys that I play Magic with, you might get to see a new configuration for the screen, so that'll be fun. I'm looking forward to just trying to make it a little more professional, you know? I didn't buy an overlay package or anything like that. I'm not too worried about getting one of those, but I am excited just to kind of see what all we can get put together, see if I can make it look just a little more professional. We've got the lights, we've got the camera, I got the microphone. I think I've got most of the equipment that I need to have, but just that little extra touch. Visual layout, maybe get an overlay. Some of the overlays are a little overdone, but I think I can get something pretty nice. So, we'll see. I've got one more egg in me, I think, and we'll be good to go. So that one wasn't shiny. I was kind of hoping we'd be able to end it on a shiny. It was really fun being able to do that the first time. But it's okay. I'm realizing now that I did actually spell Cufant correctly. I couldn't remember if it had a PH or an F. So, cool. Guessed right. That's what's up. All right, moving towards the last egg. Let's see what we got. Hoping for the best. Hoping for the best. Hoping, 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 hoping. Maybe it's a shiny? Maybe? Not a shiny, but we tried, and that's what matters, right? Had some fun, hatched some eggs, made a little bit of progress. I'm gonna go pick up another egg here, because I want to, like, I like it if I'm gonna go shutting it down. If I can kind of leave it at a full party for next time, so I don't need to scramble around to fill things in. So let me go ahead and grab you. No dice on the stats, but that's fine. Both of these are kind of mathematically very unlikely to happen. So I'm going to go ahead and save. I think what I might end up doing for next Friday is I'll go ahead and feel free to play some Pokemon, but I might kind of turn it into like a Nintendo grab bag. Get a little bit of Smash going, maybe play some Zelda, just kind of have it be like a Nintendo fun times sort of night. But for now, it has been a pleasure having people on, getting to chat, setting up some trade stuff. Once again, feel free to follow the channel, head over to the YouTube if you ever want to see any of the stuff that's been up before that might not be on VODs here now. Other than that, I'll catch everybody next time. See ya.